they're all sewn up. Again, I just went from end to end, and on all of the 4-patch you can do that because they don't intersect anything else. If you make a block that does intersect something else, say I was joining multiples of the grandmother or grandma's glitter blocks together, I probably would choose to stop and start, not on the center one because that's in the middle, but on the ones that go on the outside corners, I would choose to stop and start at that 1/4 inch because if they were going to intersect other blocks, of the grandma's glitter, they would intersect at those seams. For this quilt, we do not need to worry about that. So let's go ahead and start pressing out our 1/4 square triangles. So set your seam, and then, see, oh, look how nice. See, didn't that, I bet yours turned out amazing. You're all getting so good at them. I love seeing your pictures on Facebook. But flip that on over and then open up that seam. See, when we press that or hold that open, these other 2 seams, we want to press them in a continuing direction as the 2 seams before. So this one's going over, so this one will go in this direction. Think windmill. And then this one will go over left, and this one will come down, and then the center will almost naturally open up. If you have a little bit of glue stuck in there, you'll just kind of pop it open like this, and then it will open up just fine. So on the back side, I do push down that center with my iron, give it a little bossing around, and then from the front, I'll press those other 2 seams, just so I don't get those folds, especially toward the end down here. And I'm holding my iron in place to press it. I don't want to stretch the seams. And then there's the first one is all done. See, oh, it looks so good. I can't wait to see all of yours. And so I set the seam again, and see, it just kind of naturally opens up when I push them into those other directions, so it'll go in a windmill. And then from the front, I'll have those seams pressing, continuing in the directional order like that windmill for the rest of the seams. Kind of press them just to get them to lay nice and flat, and then that one's done. And you know, repetition is practice. So doing these things, while too much repetition can be monotonous, it does give you a lot of practice for getting better and fine-tuning your skills. So if you're thinking, what in the world, she's giving us more 1/4 square triangles to do, just think you're going to be such a pro at it and an expert in your own right, and you'll just keep getting better and better. And then the next time somebody's working on 1/4 square triangles at a sewing day, or a friend needs help, you're going to be the expert that they lean on, and you can just keep passing on the knowledge. So I did the same thing on these, just pressing those in those directions, and those are all ready to trim. So let's look at our 4-patch. Pretty much the same thing. I'm going to set the seam, and then this seam is coming down and going up. It could just be easily going left and going right. And then I want to open up that center. And if I have a little bit of glue, just kind of pop it open and press that intersection flat, and then I will press the rest from the front. At the beginning, I mentioned how 4-patches are seemingly simple, and they really are. 4 pieces of fabric sewn together, they come together at a center intersection. It's when you're wanting to join them to other pieces that it can easily get off track. So the next step will be trimming these, and I'll show you a really great trick for trimming these, so when you do potentially join 4-patch blocks to other 4-patch blocks, you'll have intersections that will also intersect and come together the way you would like. All right, same thing, set the seam, open up that intersection. I have a little bit of glue keeping that white together, so I'm just going to open that up, press it in the middle, and then press from the front. Another really important thing about pressing 4-patch blocks or any blocks like this, to keep these seams straight so they don't go skiwampus, which is pretty easy to do. Make sure you are pressing and not ironing and pushing those seams all around, because they can get crooked really easily by doing that. And also to not do this kind of a thing when you're pressing, to try and manipulate it as much as you can. Try and keep it nice and flat and straight. Set that seam. Oh, and setting the seam in starch also help to keep those seam lines straighter. Open that up at the back, release any glue. So I'm going this direction and holding. I rotate it and go that direction and hold it, and then it'll help keep that seam line straight. And last one. Next we'll trim them up, and then they'll be ready to join into the Grandma's Glitter block. I love the name Grandma's Glitter, and my grandma, my dad's mom, she always had glittery things for us to play with when we were kids. There's always some sort of arts and crafts, from leather to paper crafts, all sorts of things at her house. And so it's kind of a little tribute to my own grandma's glitter. And I can't wait to see what yours looks like. So let's go ahead and get these parts trimmed up. Each of these units are going to be trimmed up to 4.5 inches. And for both of them, we are going to start at the center of the block for our measuring and work out to the edges. Starting at the center, anytime you're trimming up a small block that becomes part of a larger block, or trimming up blocks to make up an entire quilt, starting at that center will allow you to keep your seam lines aligned, keep your center in the correct position, which makes putting the whole block together more accurate, and it will be, well, on center. It'll be in the spot where you wanted it to be. So let's start with the quarter square triangles. So finding the center is dividing that measurement, that unfinished measurement that you want it to be 4.5 in half. So that would be 2 1/4. So this center mark I'm going to align at the 2 1/4 mark on my ruler. Now, one reason I love this ruler in particular is it has a line on the ruler at the 2 1/4, which happens to perfectly intersect the 45-degree line right at 2 1/4. I didn't plan for that to happen, but I sure appreciate it. It's a really, really nice element about this particular ruler. After I get that aligned, I want to make sure that my other seam lines go in the trajectory they're supposed to. So I want this one to go toward the corner out here at 4.5, and I want this one to go up toward the 4.5 mark. It might go past it because I expect that I need to trim. Now when I trim, I am going to do one side in the top. If you're left-handed, you'll place this so it's going the opposite direction, and you'll cut here and over the top. I'm right-handed, so I'm cutting on my right and then the top. You may not have much to trim off, but it will get those dog ears off for you. So now I have this true corner. I'm going to rotate that down to the bottom and realign my center, so that way my trued edges that I just trimmed are under the ruler. And I'm going to trim the other two outside edges and realign my 45-degree and my center mark. Make sure the trued up corner lands right up at the 4.5. And go ahead and trim up the other two sides. And you'll repeat this for all 4 of your quarter square triangles to get it to size. For the 4 patch blocks, same thing as far as this is going to be 4.5 inches. So we want to align the center mark at the 2 1/4. So the 2 1/4 is there, and then I want the seam here, the horizontal and vertical seams, to align at the 2 1/4 all the way through. And then anything extra out here we're going to trim off. The reason I do that instead of something like this, finding a true corner and trimming off out there, is when I will actually keep this centered. If you trim off over here, then this is off center, so these intersections won't match if you were to join them to other 4 patch blocks. Keeping that center intersection aligned at the actual center for trimming will help you have a more accurate block to join to. And then your intersections will match up. So here, again, we rotate it